Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the pre-market stream that we open up to the public every single Wednesday. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown on what's going to happen once I'm done speaking here. This is Spartan, by the way. That's going to come on, give you a breakdown of the news events that happen over the course of the evening, as well as that are happening this morning. If there's any economical data or things that are coming out that we need to be watching. She'll also be going through the bigger picture ETFs, bigger caps, or names that make sense to be looking at as well that are relevant in the short to medium term. After that's done, I'm going to come on, give you a breakdown of the individual names that I'm looking at, the news associated with the gap up, gap downs that are happening on these individual names, as well as the SPY and the FANG. We'll go through the technicals on those as well. After that's done, South Beach will come on, give you a breakdown of what he's looking at from an analyst point of view, individual point of view, macro point of view, and then we'll go from there. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead, pass it over to Beth, and I'll talk to you guys shortly. Beth, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome. Market here, Spartan Trading. This is what we do every day. Welcome to all those joining us on the live YouTube stream. We got some interesting stuff going on. Some thoughts. I am going to focus the back end on the Chinese market. I know that there were a couple comments in the room about, oh my God, the Chinese government's buying equity. Well, we'll talk about that. That's not a big deal at all. Okay, so let's take a peek. There was inflation rates. The National People's Congress is still in session over in China. Don't forget that the actual important gathering is in December. And then they basically release it in March when they have the People's Congress meet. So they are basically rolling out what they're looking at. They had some inflationary numbers. The 3-year auction didn't go as well as expected. This is a heavy auction week. We got the 10-year note today. Be aware of that. As well as we do have some inflationary numbers coming out. The thought process is that 3.5 inflationary rate, anything above that would kind of get the attention of the Fed, Grand Poobahs, and I don't know, we'll say EIA, who knows, right? Okay, and then in China, it still continues on. Let's take a peek here on tip ranks. I like to look at this. It kind of tells me who's been naughty, who's been nice. Gives me the latest news really fast, stuff like that. Insider selling on Virgin is not a good thing, right? And we like to look at insider trading. The commodities are what I really like to focus in on, but as you can see here, Rubicon, and I guess, we do look at this, Rubicon Organics, we have to look at that part. Tilray had news as well. There was call sweeps going on with Tilray. There's shits and bits going on the pot side that we have to focus in on as well. Cliff Energy, not a lot. So, and here's the National Rails, yada, yada, yada. All right, what happened yesterday? The rotation was fairly evident, right? From financials, energy, and infrastructure, but mainly financials and energy went into a bounce on XLK. Do I think we're out of the woods? No, I just think we're in a robust range, and we either have to break the basically last week's low, and then we have to do the prior month's high, and then we're talking. Right now, it's massive range. It's not so much choppy sloppy. Yesterday was the first day in a couple of days that we actually had a continuation follow through, which has been a little bit, last week was very challenged that way, and Spartan's been kind of really nailing it in terms of the momentum trades that have been working on both sides, the up and the downside. Let's take a look at year to date. What's going on here? XLK flat, XLV flat, financial still top dog, okay, as well as energy. Stunning, 37% year to date, guys. Really? Okay. So there can be a robust pullback rotation in these names. All right, let's talk about this. One of our members, Robert, has been talking about India, well, more so about the hydrogen play. So he's got his honey-do list that I'm hoping, Robert, post what you like on the hydrogen side, because I think this is obviously something that's going to be a big deal as a disruptor going forward. We have to keep an eye on that. So that's what we're looking for is disruptors right now. And here we have an article in investing in terms of buying the battered EV. It's not really battered, but anyways, Tesla, wow, right? But their top pick is Fisker. This is what they think is the top disruptor on the EV side. Let's keep an eye on that. I am in some Fisker calls, but I'm actually looking to go a little bit further out. Nice pullback on it. See how that plays out. Another one is obviously NEO. I don't like this one as much, mainly because it's really super expensive on the option side, right? You can do it on the equity. And then GOEV had a nice pullback as well. This Canoe, I kind of like Fisker the best, but and then the Canoe. So, there's plenty of ideas out there, guys, if you're looking to do short-term, intermediate term, even long-term swings. Just kind of do, do your research and see what they're coming up with in different sectors, right? All right, so this is a bipartisan bill, guys, on the Senate side. This is probably going to be passing, basically to go into more revenue for the government on these lease gas and oil leasing. So keep an eye on that. I think this will get passed relatively soon. And the reason why is because it was Chuck Grassley who's supporting it, as well as Senator Rosen on Democrat from Nevada. So this is another way that the government can garner some revenue, right? So that's what they're looking at doing. This is really, the Wall Street Journal had an article this morning that I wanted to bring to your attention. Okay, this is the revenue chart for 2020 from the different states. And this whole concept that because of the COVID, right, revenues would sharply decline across the throughout the United States. That really isn't the case. It was kind of like 50-50. And if you look at it, basically it's minus 0.4% in terms of revenue decline across all states. Worst hit, Alaska, then comes Oregon, Hawaii, North Dakota. Florida was robustly hit as well. And then on the other side, you can see here, California was fine, right? New York, I think here's New York was 1.5%. That's nothing. Come on. I thought this was pretty interesting. Okay. All right. Let's take a look here. The OECD came out and said that because of the stimulus package, they're expanding the growth, okay, to 5.6% from 4.2. This is the world economy. And it's going to be important because they also bumped up the Chinese growth, GDP, to 7.8%, and the Eurozone is 3.9%. Now there's talk about the US could be 10% GDP. Don't know, but what do we do? I mean, where do we go from here? I have no idea. I'm being honest with you, no idea. Okay, so let's talk really seriously. Okay, anybody who does not know that the G7 central banks have been buying the US equity, global equity, okay, for years. And the only one central bank that cannot buy equity is the US central bank, okay? The Bank of Japan is the largest holding of Japanese equity, okay? So this whole concept in terms of central bank buying, they have been playing this market. The Swiss National Bank, let's take a peek at this. Swiss National Bank, you wanna know what its holdings look like? They reported it, okay? I mean, this is the thing that really concerns me. And the reason why it does is, well, if we actually do have a meaningful top, are these central banks going to actually sell their holdings? No. Something to think about, right? Just saying. Okay. Let's see what Kathy's up to. Hey, short list yesterday, right? What'd she buy? Adaptive, PTX, still selling the Pluriston. Okay, it's in Roche. Bought DraftKings, some more of that. She likes it. And then PayPal, she's just pruning stuff. You know, it's interesting though. Did anyone see what she did not buy yesterday? She didn't buy Tesla. She's always buying Tesla. And she bought this SKLZ. This is a battleground between the put buyers and Kathy. And then she actually sold some Baidu. And I'm going to go over my thoughts on Baidu in just a sec. So what came in at the end of the day? QQQ, IWM, QQQ. So we did start to see some put sweeps yesterday in the QQQ. All right. And that was kind of notable. And you can see here the weekly. Right. So the protection was indeed being put out. Notable. Is it meaningful? I don't know. But on the other side, if you look at the dog pool money, right, was buying. So I'm not sure in terms of how this thing plays out one way or the other. I would actually like just a quiet day. You know, just something that, you know, a little bit up, a little bit down, digesting, you know, or, you know, the Spartan was kind of mumbling to himself, maybe a FOMO type rally where we, you know, that would be kind of cool too. Once again, the Russell's outperforming the NASDAQ. And once again, I have to say, this won't end well. When they do this, it's not going to end well. This is not stopping this whole small cap Dow rally. It's not going to stop. But God bless. That's all I have to say. Okay, let's take a look at the macro here. The mutual fund flow is still coming in. Available cash, not as bad as low as it was from October to December. This is January to March. And then we have the money market ratio, still bullish. Consumer, let's see how this changes with the stimulus package. Because like I said yesterday, 50% of it's going to come into the market. Okay, cool. Let's do it. Money markets, you can see here. We're not even close, guys, on the interest rate side for money, for the money to come out of stocks into the bonds. No. Yeah, money market, no way. Okay. All right. It was a sea of green. We talked about this. Now it's a beautiful color. Okay, 49, it's neutral. Still got this 30 at 5. Okay, the bond is at 35. But this is a lovely heat map we've got going on. This, my friends, is GameStop. Okay, GameStop is now, when it does this, the low is holding on XRT. So when GameStop moves, okay, it is okay if you want to look at the XRT. I don't personally, I like to do, I mean, I'm in 800 calls on, I rolled up from 500 to 800 on a GME for this week. And it's still going to be premium. I'm not going to do that though, because it's going to start to unwind the premium. So I have to be careful with that. I might write against it. We'll see. Okay. So what do we got? Norway. That's fascinating. Bitcoin. Okay. Let's look at the ETF fund flows out of the SPY, XLU, QQQ, IWM. Where did it go? Very mildly, guys, on SMH, XLE, XLY. Right. So, you know, there was some rotation, I agree, and a lot of the individual tickers did fantastic, but the indices as a whole was really kind of meh, sort of thing, right? Energy, pulling back, bouncing. This I want to see more of, this corporate insider velocity, guys. I want to see some insider buying. We had a lot of it. If you go farther out, as you can see here, this is October into December. And since then, we've really not seen that. It's really tapered off. Let's take a look at EFA. Still has not broken out. I'm waiting patiently for this to break out, and we'll start doing longer dated stuff. And this just says that this is a US small cap rally, because this is small cap excluding the US, right? So it hasn't even broken out yet. Let's take a look at the DAX. Looking good, Billy Ray, on its highs, right? All-time highs, continue to go higher. I don't see any reason for this not to continue. It is nowhere near the extensions that we're seeing on the US side. So this is basically money rotating outside the US. Is the NASDAQ against the DAX? As you can see, believe it or not, the NASDAQ has lost against the DAX. Now it's starting to rebound here. It's at actually a pivot point. This would be bullish, right, for the NASDAQ if it starts to gain steam against the DAX. So that would be a first indication that we're going to have a continued bounce in the market. Let's take a look at the bonds. This is the 10-year against the euro bonds, right? At a key extension right now, notable. Obviously, this impacts the dollar. This is the 10-year yield. I don't think we take this out, 162, but we'll see how this plays out. Needs to consolidate. Not sure. I think this is where what's going to happen right down here. Going to have a pullback, and then we start to go higher. Like as stated, the market has to get comfortable with higher interest rates. That's just a fact, right? Here we have China fund flows, as you can see. Still outflows, and clearly this is gonna, when we get some new data on this, we'll start to see, this is basically the end of February. We saw more fund flows out. We should get another robust candle. When we get something like that, guys, that's a buying opportunity. Here's a Chinese yuan. We've talked about this in the past. I was consolidated. That's exactly where I see it continuing on for quite a number of months. Shanghai bounced off this extension, monthly, holding, barely. I have absolutely no problem with the central bank doing what it was doing. It needed to provide support, liquidity for the market, and they basically chose to do it on the equity side. A shares. Let's take a peek at this. Yesterday, I don't know if I'll show you. The A shares actually had sweeps in it. I haven't seen this in a while, guys. This is October, July. Notable, right? It's expensive, but it looks like it could be paper replacement, but it's something that we have to keep an eye on. Normally when it sweeps, it's institutional buying, and we'll keep an eye on that. So MCHI, this is one that I'm in. This is basically Tencent, Baba, as well as Muritan. A lot of these ETF guys, basically the top holdings are going to be Baba, Tencent, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So we did bounce off of support here, notable on an extension. I think we're gonna, I think that the high and the low is for this month is already in. So that's that. KWeb, let's talk about KWeb. There's been a lot of put sweeps coming in on KWeb. This is another one of the institutions like that was more hedging than anything. It basically reclaimed this extension that goes back to 2015. This is a monthly chart. It also bounced off this extension that goes back to 2017. So the KWeb held where it needed to hold for now. Once again, the high and low is in for the month. I don't see anything changing on that one. Let's take a look at FXI as well. This one, you can see, has had a lot more damage done to it. This is the large cap. This is the Chinese. This is not BABA, stuff like that. This is, the top large caps in China, right? It obviously has had a more dramatic pullback. I was very fortunate in the sense that once it started to pull down, I had some FXI puts on as a hedge. I don't have anything right now. I'm watching this very clearly. This is the weekly, right? I want to see where this closes. If it closes below this level right here, okay, I'm going to put the puts back on, okay? And then you can see here, that's 47.58 on the FXI, okay? We're at 47.76 right now. And what I would go out is a couple weeks, and I'd probably do the 40s, I'll probably do the 45 puts, just to hedge that again. Okay, let's take a look at PDD. This was another one that had a robust pullback. See, my concern now is that this was a false breakout and we're back inside this range. That's a problem that we have to talk about, right? And we're kind of in the mid. So we really don't have a well-defined risk reward, at least in terms of on the short term. For me, it would have to basically we'd look at this level right here on the weekly close above, 161.39. Don't know. And then obviously we can see here, if we break this support here, we have more room on the downside. Okay. Bizon, another one. Is it just possible that we're still in this massive range that goes back to 2018? We had a false breakout here, which is pretty obvious. And then that's the pivot right now, right? 56.90. And then we're back mired in muck. And that's where we are. And now we're looking for support on this going forward. It's a conundrum. The monthly tells us that this was a false breakout. And basically, we're back inside this quadrant. You can see that it's a W, right? And it did not complete the W. So, a lot of these things that we thought were breakouts didn't confirm on the monthly. Same thing with Baidu, right? Here we are. It basically has failed to hold the breakout. This is very unusual, guys, especially on these monthly breakouts, that this would happen. Okay, you have this, you never got a full candle above the breakout levels. Just amazing ton of events. So now we're back in the same thought process, right? A PDD, Bizon, right? False breakout. Multi-year false breakout, multi-month false breakout. Fascinating. Okay. Do I still think we go higher? Yeah, but not yet. Okay. And then you can see here, same sort of narrative, except with BABA, it did have the breakout going back to 2019, but it did not confirm this all-time high right there. So now we're kind of mired in muck in this quadrant right now. It is holding. So on a risk reward basis, BABA is what you want to look at because it's had the greater pullback, and then basically it's a well-defined risk reward. Not so much with Tencent. It's still defining its range right now, right? And to me, this is what we're looking at. It A2, but it looks obviously more bullish than what we've got going on with the other Chinese names. And that's what you would expect Tencent stopped off in that regard, right? Flag, as you can see, a beautiful flag on the monthly. It is holding the extension, okay, that goes back here to 2018. So that also, so BABA and Tencent are the ones you want to look at. So if you're looking at ETFs, it's the same narrative. You want to look at Tencent and BABA, so that would be like the KWAP, that would be like the MCHI, right? Those would be the ones if you don't want to buy the individual, because obviously Tencent's not optionable. BABA, I do have a Delta trade I'll share with you on that I've been accumulating. It's still quarter size. So it's the June 440 calls that I'm in. And I don't know if I'm actually going to get a larger size than that, FYI. Okay. Since we have a little bit of time before my time is up, let's take a peek quickly at the VIX. Okay. The problem is, look at this. This is the key problem for the market right now, right? It's holding that extension that goes back to February, right? It's consolidated. It needs to break in order for this market to really break out on the upside. All right, my friends, my time is up. I shall pass it. Once again, welcome to those of you who are joining us through our live YouTube stream, as well as those who are new to the room. A warm welcome. And are you ready, sir? It's your turn.
Just need about a minute here, Beth.
Okay, no problem. All right, so we got a minute. Let's talk about Amazon. What's going on here? All right, so we talked about Amazon and Tesla basically had to rally for the XLY to start breaking out. This is the monthly Amazon. I know it's very exciting, but as you can see here, all it's really done is reclaim this extension that goes back to 2019. I'm not denying it's bullish. Now we're sitting right here. This is the next hurdle that we have to basically hold, guys. Right here. 3060. That's the pivot right now. Right? And guess where we are today? 3060. So if we do hold, I believe we will get back to this 3267. All right, but we take it one step at a time here. If we close below it, okay, I'll put on once again my put butterflies, and what I'll do is for next week, the butterfly will be 2850, 2900, 2950. That's simple. And this is why when you're trading Amazon, guys, you have to look at longer dated charts. If you do not, you'll get lost in space.
All right, Beth, I'm ready to go.
You want? Okay, guys. Thank you.
All right, guys, morning. What's going on? Let me just pop up the screen share here. If you guys are new to the chat, I will post the Discord link for you at the end of this YouTube stream and at the end of the pre-market. So you'll have to just be patient waiting for that. Otherwise, let's kind of just go through things as we typically would. So if you guys are just coming in today, make sure to check out the new chat information section as well as the disclaimer. If you guys are just watching the YouTube stream, you can give all that information a read on the description there. In regards to what we're doing today, a couple things that we're looking at this morning in the pre-market. GME, NARI, Riot, Blue, KOSS, then MNOV. So we got GME gapping up a continuation of momentum from last day's move. So we'll look at that. NARI, earnings beat, EPS and revs, Q1 guidance raised, stocks gapping up. Riot gapping up in sympathy with Bitcoin. Blue has initiated a process with regulators to resume clinical studies, stocks gapping up on that. KOSS gapping up in sympathy with GME. And then MNOV, DC Nova reports partnership with Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, the BARDA, to develop one of its drugs. So let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. First two we're going to be looking at are that GME and that NARI. Let's take a look at these. GME, NARI. So GME stocks gapping up. Let's take a look at this from a technical standpoint. Let's do a fib retracement on that. Kind of, we can use some of our levels from yesterday, that's for sure. And 257, perfect. All right, let's take a look at this thing intraday here. I'm actually going to get rid of that. Don't need it anymore. Let's just get rid of this. Okay. Now let's take a look at this thing intraday. Mark this level acting as support. All right, so 273.36 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold. You got room towards 357 to 330, sorry, 321.20. If that level breaks, we can see the next leg up. I think it's a what, towards a 380 level. It's got quite a bit of room after above that. Yeah, 381.23. So quite a bit of room after that. Unable to hold 272.36. Look for a pullback on GME into the 248.22s to the 210.84 level on the downside. Going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side again today, looking for a continuation grind higher if that pivot can stay intact. We'll see what happens. But obviously, if it holds support, then I think we can get a continuation push to the upside. So that's GME. Let's take a look at this NARI. So stocks gapping up. Good earnings, raised guidance, which is a positive, of course. Let's see where we got room to today. One sec, I'm just going to throw this up on the side as well. All right, so NARI, stock's at about 112 in the pre-market here. Pretty tight range, but all the levels are there. So we have this 110.08 spot, which is the pivot to the upside today, which is also the head and shoulders level to the upside on the daily chart. This level is able to hold. You got room towards 114.04 to 117.83. Unable to hold the pivot. Look for a pullback to 106.49 to 102.88 supports. Overall on this NARI, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today. Looking for a little bit of a pullback, I think, out the gate. Some consolidation and then continuation to the upside. In my opinion, I think, it should be on the bullish side. We'll see what happens. So that is GME. That is NARI. Let's take a look at the next two. Right and blue. Boom. Nice little pop on, I think, CPI data, I'm pretty sure, on the market. All right, pivot on Riot to the upside today, 56.84. So major, resistance level in the short term. This level is able to hold. We got room for continuation over at 61.09 to 65s on the upside. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on Riot into the 52.56 to 47.49 on the downside. Overall on Riot, going to be leading on the bullish side today. Looking for a continuation push higher. Overall looks, fairly bullish on the daily with obviously Bitcoin pushing. So going to be leaning on the bullish side of that. Let's take a look at blue. So blue reclaiming EMA support on the daily looks like. I think we're above this resistance level. There's that gap down area. Let's go back in time now. Range support reclaim here. $34.24 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold. We got room towards 36.71. That level breaks. 38.01 will be tested. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 32.10 on blue. And if that level breaks, we see that 30.23 level tested on the downside. Overall, going to be leading on the bullish side of blue as well. In my opinion, going to be looking for continuation higher if we can get back above that pivot and push. So that is Riot. That is blue. Let's take a screenshot of those two and move on to the next. All right, let's take a look at this KOSS. What's going on there? Okay, some Fibonacci levels looks like. Yeah, I don't need this. So decent curl on the daily on that KOSS. Quite the interesting chart. Or bullish looking chart, I should say. Gapping up. Above EMA support, room for continuation. Yada, yada. All righty. 24.71 is going to be the pivot to the upside today on this KOSS. Whoa, whoops. One sec. Change that to the pivot. This level is able to hold. we got room for continuation towards 29.84. If that level breaks, we can see further continuation on the name into the 34.99. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 2060 to the 1686 level on the downside. Overall, going to be leaning on the bullish side today of KOSS. If that pivot point can hold, we should see continuation higher, as well as, obviously watch what Jamie's doing, because this will trade in sympathy with Jamie. So give it a watch. Okay, so that's that. Let's take a look at MNOV. This thing previously was trading in quite a big range. Obviously broke that to the upside. Looks like it is a former runner. No, 1340 can go. All right, guys, and MNOV 1029 pivot to the upside today on the daily. Levels able to hold towards 1222 to 1452 on the upside. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 859 to 679 on the downside. Overall, it's MNOV. I do think it's up quite a lot. Going to be looking for a pop and topping out the gate. If we get that topping, in my opinion, I think it's a good idea to go on the or look at it on the short side. We'll see what happens. So looking for a pop topping. To look for a short on MNOV, leaning on the bearish side today. So that is KOSS. That is MNOV. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. All right. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG here. Obviously, market's pushing to the upside a little bit. Let's see what goes on. All right, so daily chart, we look at the market. Obviously, we're above EMA support on the daily. We did break that. Let's just take a look. I want to see where the channel is again today. Yeah, so we're still above it. Okay. Still above the top channel. I think we're, yep, right above that weekly range area as well. So holding up nicely from a bullish standpoint. Pivot to the upside today is going to be that 387 level. Oops, let me just change this back to white. There we go. So 387.37 pivot to the upside today on the SPY. This level is able to hold. We got room towards 389.07. If that level breaks, we can see further continuation back towards last day's highs, and then that 380.87 level on the upside. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 385.80 to the 384.77 level on the downside. Overall, going to be leading on the bullish neutral side today. I do think we can get a outside day on the market today. Just needs to push a little bit further to break last day's highs. We'll see what happens though. If it gets rejected, obviously we'll stay inside and we'll, pretty much just be range bound. But going to be leaning on the bullish side today. Let's take a look at the VXX beside this name. All righty. So obviously the big level is going to be this 1440 range to the downside today on the VXX, which is going to act as your pivot point. And, mainly I look at the VXX for direction on the SPY. So 1441, all righty. All right, so those are the next major levels on the VXX to the downside. So 1341 breaks. You got room towards 1398. And then 1352. Able to hold, we'll push back towards 1493 to 1560. Again, not really going to be leading any direction, just looking at that VXX for overall direction on the SPY. So that's the SPY, that's the VXX. Let's take a look at the rest of the FANG here. I'm just going to take a screenshot of this, or not screenshot, I'm just going to save this. There we go. All right, there we are. Let's take a look at Apple. So Apple pivot to the upside today, guys. It's going to be that 121.31 spot. This level is able to hold. You got room towards 123.69. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on Apple into the 119.09 spot on the downside. Overall, going to be leaning on the bullish side of Apple today, looking for a continuation, bullish neutral, I should say, looking for a continuation grind higher if that pivot point is able to be reclaimed. So we'll see what happens there. Let's take a look at Amazon. $30.89.98 pivot levels able to hold. We got room towards 341.79. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 330.37 on the downside. Overall on Amazon, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today as well, looking for a continuation grind higher if you're able to reclaim that pivot point to the upside. We did get a downtrend break of that basically kind of falling knife on the daily there. It held up above short-term EMA support. We got to get above that pivot, and then we will be reclaiming all short-term EMA support with room back towards essentially the 50 EMA on the daily. So that's what I'm looking for there. Let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix 504.77 pivot. Levels able to hold towards 513.72 to 520.86. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 498.67 to that 492.41 spot on the downside. Going to be leaning on the bullish side of Netflix today. Actually, one sec. That may change. It might be on the bearish side. Is it below short-term EMA support? 509s. Yeah, okay. I'll be leaning on the bearish neutral side today on Netflix because it's still below short-term EMA support, looking for continuation lower. So we'll see what happens with the pivot. If it breaks, then obviously that gives us the confirmation that we're looking for. But in my opinion, leaning on the bearish side until it reclaims that 509 area. All right, so that's Netflix. Let's take a look at Facebook here. This should be at top of the range. Yes, it is. Facebook's actually held up quite well through all this. It's quite impressive, in my opinion. I think I might get rid of the 271s. All right, so we got that basically 50 MA to be reclaimed on the daily to the upside, as well as breaking through the top range. 267.20 is going to be the pivot point to the upside today on Facebook. If we get through this level, we should see continuation higher into the 269.72 to 273.83. Unable to hold, looking for a pullback to 262.03 to 257.71 on the downside. Overall on Facebook, I will be leaning on the bullish neutral side, but it's super key to get through that pivot point in order to get a push. Otherwise, you're getting a 50 MA rejection on the daily. So it's a massive resistance level to the upside. So that is Facebook. Last but not least, guys, let's take a look at Google. All right, so 2041 on Google, going to be the pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold to get room towards 2078 to 2114. Unable to hold 1988 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Google, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation grind higher if the pivot's able to hold. So we have, a lot of bullish looking charts today for continuation. We'll see if that's able to confirm. We still need, essentially another day candle. Closing above a lot of these short-term EMAs on a bunch of these charts, as well as short-term resistance levels. That's going to be the key. One thing to keep an eye on, guys, is XLK into the 50 EMA today, which it's going to be testing it to the upside right at that 130.93 level, as well as there's a range resistance level on the daily that's quite big at 131.30. We need to be, reclaiming these types of levels as well in order to see tech continue to go higher, and obviously that will help the S&P as well as other ETFs push to the upside. Definitely been seeing a rebalancing and rotation in terms of money in the short term, but that's ultimately which will allow the market to push, in my opinion, to the upside with some actual sustainable strength. You need kind of everything on the same page. Anywho, that's it, guys. I'm going to go ahead and pass over to Selpeach. He'll come on, give you a breakdown of what he's looking at for today while I type up the notes, and we'll go from there in a little bit. Selpeach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Good morning, guys. Okay, Wednesday. Let's see what we got. Okay, go right to the bond market, trading at 155, basically flat. Okay, 0.009 change. All right. Looking overseas, Britain is pretty unchanged. Germany's pretty unchanged. no movement in the bond market today. So this is what the problem was, okay? The bond market had made a really quick move, a really big move quickly, and equity traders got very nervous, okay, that there would be competition for stocks, and that would kill the golden goose, okay? Basically drawing money away from equities into bonds. And now that the movement has kind of found a level, it seems, the market can, the equities have very little competition for the dollar, people's investing dollars, and, the feel of the market has completely changed, okay? So that's what we have, and that's what we're looking for. Now, Tepper commented this morning. He basically came out, Monday, and said that the bond market had gone up too fast, and they were it's going to be in a trading range from like 130 to 160, I think he said, or 170, something to that effect. Anyway, he's now saying he's making sure that people understand that this is a temporary thing, okay? Because once the economy starts coming back, the job market gets, unemployment situation kind of rectifies itself, hopefully, then the bonds can find the right level, okay? But he's saying that's not going to happen for a while, and it's temporary. So reading between the lines, I'm kind of thinking he's at this place. He thinks that the first half of the year is going to be pretty good for stocks, equities, I should say, and the second half is going to be more challenging. That's pretty obvious from the way he's positioning what he's saying. And he is amazing at this. Of all the people out there, I would say that he has, he's probably the most successful macro investor over the last decade. So when he says something, pay attention. All right, so basically that's my read on how he's positioning himself. So right now it's pedal to the metal in equities. And as we get further along, the stimulus money, he says, is going to come into the market. That's pretty obvious, right? Through bonds, which will keep the yield lower because more money's coming in, and in stocks. Okay, so pretty obvious what he's thinking right now, and the guy's been right. Now, I've said to you guys that I haven't looked at economic numbers in a year. And now you have to start paying attention to them. The CPI number came out today. It was very muted. The month over month was in line. Okay, so the market loves that. And year over year, actually, the CPI was lower than expectations. So, you got futures ripping on that. And no surprise there, because as long as the bond market is tame, equities are going to go up. Okay. Because there's no competition, right? And there's a lot of money sloshing around. And now that you got another 1.9 trillion being wasted away for the most part, people are going to invest it. They're going to put it in their, bank accounts. Banks are going to have to buy bonds, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's feeding on itself. Let's look at some of the other things that we look at every morning. All right. Let's look at commodities this morning. Oil's up 1%. Oil should be pretty good in this environment, in my opinion, as the economy comes back. Copper is up just 2 cents, but it's staying in that at the top of that range that we've been talking about, and that's no surprise there. The currency market, dollars down against the North American currencies, and kind of unchanged against against Asia, and Europe's flat as well. Okay. Crypto world. So you got Bitcoin trading at 56,000. You had this thing this morning with MGI. I don't know if you guys saw that, MoneyGram. There was some news out in that one, basically saying they're doing some kind of crypto thing. I think the adoption is just continues to go further through different companies and the economy, and I think that's pretty bullish for crypto. And it looks like it's found a pretty good level for now. I guess as it goes higher, And my position in crypto is pretty small at the moment. Let's see what else we got. And let's look at the foreign markets. Okay, we got FTSE's unchanged, the DAX is up 0.6%, and over in Europe, China's flat, Hong Kong's up 0.47%. I was out last night with a guy who trades Hong Kong, which was pretty interesting. And there was something that came out Monday night, basically saying that the Chinese were going to buy a bunch of stocks, and that's how it works over there. The government comes in and says, okay, they're done going down. We're going to stand here. We're going to buy some for pensions and whatnot. And it's crazy. I don't know what the U.S. government does, to be honest, but I don't know if they stand there and buy stocks. They may, but they don't talk about it either way. These guys come right out and say, okay, this is the game. This is what we're doing. So that's that. Okay. What else came? This AAL, I thought there was going to be a secondary. I was told they were talking about it. It looks like it came through some kind of notes offering, $2.5 billion. So the guys knew there was a deal. They just kind of didn't know exactly what they would bring in, and they brought that. Okay, so let's jump into the research. Okay. Goldman Sachs doesn't like some of these things that they call spot trucking market. Okay, not really sure what that is, but the stocks that are the companies that are positioned in that space, they downgraded the whole lot of them. LSTR goes to a sell, KNX goes to a neutral, WERN goes to a neutral, and SNDR goes to a neutral. So they do not like that space. So that's that. Okay. Sorry about the AAL, but it looks like it was the right call. These guys are pretty plugged in. They just are. A bunch of guys are not so high on Chevron. You have one downgrade out of Scotiabank to equal, target 115. You got Citibank initiated at a neutral. So I prefer Exxon because you have the KISS factor in Exxon, which we've gone over a bunch of times. So I'd like that one better. Karen initiated LAC and LTHM, two companies that we trade with neutrals. Okay, so they didn't mention PLL, which has been a monster. I think they're wrong, to be honest. I think EV is, that's what everybody's gonna drive. So why wouldn't lithium stocks be good? So I think they're wrong. Barclays downgraded MTW from overweight to a sell based on price, but they did lower their target. But when they downgrade something on price, I think it's not worthwhile to play. Okay, and that's really it on the downgrade. So let's look at the upgrades. Okay, so Goldman does like these, I guess, two of the trucking stocks. I guess they're in a different space, ODFL and Arkansas Best. These stocks are too tough to trade, in my opinion. More in line what we like to trade. FSR, Citibank. Let me make sure this is not an initiation or what it was. Okay, they just raised the price target. So they reiterate the buy and they changed the target from 26 to 31. Now you remember a couple of weeks back or a week or two back, someone else did something in it that raised the target. Morgan Stanley raised the target to 40. And the guy was on TV. You remember Adam Jonas, and the stock really got going. So you may get a little jump in that one again today based on the call. All right, that's one thing that I thought was important. Uber, stock hasn't acted as well as I would have expected it to act, to be honest. But I think it's going to act better. Deutsche Bank calls it a compelling value. They reiterate the buy and they raise the target from 78 to 82. The stock's 56. I think it will get there eventually. I just don't know when. DraftKings, They had a meeting yesterday and everybody's coming in and humping it today. Jeffries has a 75 target from 73. Benchmark raises their target from 69 to 75. Morgan uses a 60 target, but everybody is predisposed to like the name. After that analyst meeting, they had a good story to tell. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so who's this saying this? Scotiabank also, I said about Chevron. So who is this? Wedbush. So they have a couple of stocks that they like. They like this sale, top pick, target 80, the stock's 52. I thought that was an interesting call. Okay, that's SAIL. And they did something similar in NUAN. Top pick, target 65, stock's 42. Okay, so two stocks where they have huge targets and certainly way below where the stocks are trading. Apple, they also like that one with the 175 target. So they go the futures again. Okay. Billy, this New Street comes out with a crazy target. They had a stock yesterday that had a crazy target. And so I'm starting to like say, you can't listen to New Street because he just wants that ooh-ah factor. He gets you to read his research by putting in stupid targets. This Wainwright, they like MRNS. They raised the target from 35 to 38 and the stock's $8. But it is a biotech. So targets in biotech are not as relevant to me as targets in industrial type stocks, because you can make assumptions in biotech stocks that MRNS is $18 stock, I'm sorry, but they have a target of 35 to 38. You can make assumptions in biotech stocks that you can't make in other things. All right, so one drug can change the whole dynamic of the stock. Everybody likes this NARI because they had good earnings, a really good beat. About 5 or 6 guys upgraded that stock as well. BLDR, let's see that one. Builders First, Stifel likes that one. Initiated with a buy rating. $56 target, stock's 44. So to recap, what do I think are the good calls? I think the FSR call is good. I didn't mention Run. That's another good call. Morgan Stanley, equal to outperform. They have an $86 target. Stock's 53. So the calls I like is the FSR call. I like Uber. I think this sale is interesting, and NUAN is interesting, and maybe and DraftKings is going to go up, but I don't know. It's already up what, $3? So I'm not really sure where it goes from here. Those are the calls I think. On the short side, I don't think any of them are worth playing. Okay. Sorry. Let's go to syndicate. Okay, so what do we have here? So we have this BLDR. Okay. I'm sorry, BLDP. Apologize. They did a block trade at 26.40. All right, 1.5 million. You don't really see that often, that they'll price it a couple of bucks over yesterday's price. All right, and it gets gobbled up, but it did. All right, a couple of other secondaries, CAE, 9 million, Goldman Sachs, 27.5, WHD, 5.5 million, 31, ITRI, JNCE, and XENE. So now let's talk about the big cheese out there is this roadblocks. Okay. So I just spoke to my buddy. Let's see what we got here. So the reference point is a 45, which really is a kind of meaningless number. All right. And there's 198 million shares. Let's call it 200 million shares. Okay. And if the reference point is 45, at 45, it's worth $30 billion. And this is a direct listing as opposed to a just traditional IPO or a SPAC or anything like that. So some of you guys are familiar with this type of new issue. Some of you are not. But basically, everything's free game. Okay, there's no lockups. Employees can sell. you know, anybody can buy it, et cetera, et cetera. And they find a level on the exchange and they open the stock. That's basically the way it works. Okay. It's far superior way for everybody, you know, other than the fat cats that get these amazing allocations from the investment banks, which is a freaking joke. And the stocks double on the opening and everybody gets screwed except the fat cats. Okay. So this is a great way to do a deal. Anybody who needs money, who owns the stock, can sell it. Anybody who wants to get involved can buy it. The one factor that I found, though, over time is when they do these deals, they generally have a couple of weeks to digest the move. Okay, if you can remember, Facebook had when got smashed afterwards. Google didn't go up for a while. These have a tendency to have a digestion period, so don't chase too much. Okay, that's my sense in this thing. I don't know where it opens. Maybe it opens with a 6 in front of it. That would be my best guess. And then I think it has a couple of weeks of churning with a tendency to go lower than higher. All right, and then it'll find its level. But there's a call going on at 45 minutes, a better sense of valuation I should have in that time period. But for now, that's my thinking, okay? I don't know how fast it'll be to get the ability to borrow stock, but that's what I'm looking into right now, okay? So we'll see what happens with that. But that's my sense on this Roblox. I think it's gonna be a real focal point today, okay? And for the rest of the week, there's I think 4 more deals. Let's see, two more IPOs and 1 secondary for now. I'm sure the secondary list will grow from here. Okay, so that's syndicate. Let's see what I got. How much time do I have? A few minutes. Let's see what what's her name? Kathy Wood was very quiet last night. She's buying this SPAC that I happen to own, AONE. She's been buying that the last few days. Keeps buying the skills. DraftKings, she continues to buy the crap out of JD as well. And on the short side, she's got PayPal, Baidu. I think Taiwan Semi. And that's really it. But this is I haven't seen her this quiet quite some time. Okay. They go the futures up 25. So, basically, I'm here to answer your questions. As far as groups, you want me to go? Let's go over groups, okay? Because that's a good thing to do. All right. So if the inflation situation is under control, you're going to get these NASDAQ stocks, continue to rally. Okay. So that's how it should play out again today. And when I say that, we're going to have semis, tech stocks, high PE tech doing well, EV should do well, solar should do well. I mean, yesterday, just looking at it, what didn't do well? Big oil had a bad day. Banks didn't do well. Insurance stocks didn't do well. High PE on the positive side, you had the names that I'm talking about: high PE tech, biotech, solar, EV, crypto, China, etc. Okay, so it was the exact opposite of Monday. All right, so I would think today would be more look a lot more like yesterday than it would Monday. Okay, so if there is any weakness, I'm sensing that it'll be in bank stocks, insurance stocks, stuff like that. Stocks that need, a positive yield curve. Okay, and that's really it. I'm out of time, so I'm going to shoot it back to Spartan. And thanks for your time, guys, and let's have a good day. It's all yours, buddy.
All right, thanks, South Beach. All right, guys, morning. What's going on? So if you guys are new to the chat, I'll post the Discord link in just a second when we close down the YouTube stream. We're just gonna do a quick little recap here. Just real quick, guys. I'll just pop up the pre-market section. Here's the pre-market action plan posted. You can, obviously just pause it and look at it if you want. And then on the option side as well. Okay. Alrighty. Pre-market tickers on watch. Let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. So GME, NARI, Riot, Blue, KOSS, MNOV, the names that we're looking at today. GME gapping up continuation momentum from last day. NARI earnings beat, EPS and revs, Q1 guidance raised. Riot gapping up in sympathy with Bitcoin. Blue has initiated process with regulators to resume clinical studies. KOSS gapping up in sympathy with GME. Then MNOV, Medici reports partnership with biomedical. Stocks gapping up on that. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. So first two, GME and NARI. So GME, NARI, let's take a look. GME, pivot 272.36, levels able to hold. We've got room towards 357 to 321.20. Unable to hold 248.22 to 210.84 will be tested on the downside. Going to be leaning bullish neutral only if it can get above that pivot and hold. Otherwise, I think it will come in. NARI pivot 110.08, pivot holds towards 114.04, which it's pushing into right now. That level breaks 117.83 will be tested. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on NARI into 106.47 to 102.88 on the downside. Overall on NARI, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today if it can hold above that pivot point as well. Let's take a look at the next two, Riot and Blue. Riot 56.84 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold. We got room towards 61.09. That level breaks. We can see further continuation on Riot into the 65 level on the upside. Unable to hold. Look for a pullback to 52.56 to 47.49. Going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side of Riot. Looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot can stay intact. Blue 34.24 pivot level holds in towards 36.71 to 38.81. Unable to hold. Look for a pullback to 32.10 to 32.23 on the 30.23 on the downside. Leaning bullish on Blue, looking for a reclaim of the pivot, continuation push higher. Let's take a look at KOSS. Let's take a look at MNOV. KOSS pivot 24.71. This level holds room towards 29.84 to 34.99. Unable to hold 20.60 to 16.86 on the downside will be tested. Overall on KOSS, going to be leaning bullish. Neutral, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot can stay intact. MNOV 10.29 pivot, unable to hold, room towards 8.59 to 6.79. Able to hold 12.22 to 14.52 will be tested on the upside. Leaning on the bearish side, looking for a pop topping to take the name short if it occurs. Let's take a look at SPY and the FANG market. What's going on here? So SPY has been pushing up to the upside here, 387.37 pivot. Let's just label that. So we'll see if it's going to be an outside day, but SPY 387.37 pivot to the upside today. This level holds. Room higher into the 389.07 resistance breaks. We see the 390.87 level tested. Pivot unable to hold. Room lower into the 385.80 support. Breaks. We see the 384.77 tested. Getting bullish neutral on the market, looking for continuation higher. I think we'll probably get some profit taking out the gate and then look for that basing and curl back to the upside. Quite the move in the pre-market already. We'll see what happens there. So that's that. Let's take a look at Apple. Apple pivot to the upside today, guys, is going to be the let's take a look. Apple pivot 121.31. This level is able to hold room towards 123.69. Unable to hold 119.09 to 116.55 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Apple, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher. So let's take a look at Amazon. Pivot to the upside today is going to be the 30.89.98 spot. Again, this is a reclaim of short-term EMA support on the daily. This level is able to hold room towards 31.41.79. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 30.37 on the downside. Going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today as well. All right, let's take a look at Netflix. And by the way, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, I do guide the SPY the entire day. Netflix pivot upside today is going to be 504.77. This level holds in towards 513.72 to 520.86. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 498.67 to the 495.52 level on the downside. Leaning bullish, neutral, bearish, neutral, looking for a continuation lower. If that pivot breaks, obviously it's holding above it right now. All right, let's take a look at Facebook. $267.20 level holds. You got room towards the 269.72 to 273.83. Unable to hold. 262.03 to 257.71 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Facebook, leaning bullish if we can get above that pivot point to the upside today and hold. Last but not least, guys, Google. Pivot is going to be the 2041 spot. Level holds in towards 2078 to 2114. Unable to hold. 1988 will be tested on the downside. Going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side of Google as well. Alrighty, guys, that's it for the pre-market stream. Thanks for coming and checking us out. We do this every single Wednesday, so we'll see you next week. Any questions, you can go to spartantrading.com. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Alrighty. So once the stream's cut, guys, I will post the Discord link for the guys that are new in the Zoom chat. Just give me a second to get confirmation from the admin, and we'll be good to go. So it should be a pretty interesting day today. We'll see what happens. Big key or big thing to be watching, obviously, is see if we continue to get rotation into these opening names, EV names, solar, things that were bouncing yesterday, China names. See if we get continuation there. One sec, guys. I'm just not getting any confirmation that the stream's cut. So one sec, guys. Give me one sec.